Contract manufacturing. Your brand, someone else's factory. What is the real game? At midnight, a customer purchased a new flagship smartphone. The shining logo assured them that everything inside must have been made by that famous company, but the truth was different. Weeks later, in fine print on the box, the name of another company appeared, manufactured by. The brand he paid money to, its factory hadn't perhaps even touched that phone. If the product was made in some unknown factory, who guarantees the quality? If the design leaks, components turn out defective or production stops, who will ultimately be responsible? Then why do the world's biggest companies hand over their reputation and billions in sales to someone else? Is it a move to save costs, or is the game much bigger? The first revelation is that this is not some fake or hidden arrangement, but a model that has become the backbone of modern business. Its name is contract manufacturing, and its real strength lies not in ownership, but in control. In contract manufacturing, a brand assigns an independent manufacturer to make a product according to set specifications, quantity, price, and deadline. The brand connects with the customer, while the factory gives a physical form to its promise. This game typically involves the brand company, the contract manufacturer, and raw material suppliers. Sometimes testing labs, packaging vendors, and logistics partners also join in, which is why an entire invisible network works behind a single product. Understand it like a restaurant owner deciding the menu, taste, and customer experience, but the food is prepared by a trained central kitchen. The customer remembers the restaurant's name, so the kitchen can change, but the promise cannot. The brand usually decides the design, features, material grade, software, color, dimensions, safety limits, and quality standards. The manufacturer transforms that design into millions of identical units through machines, workers, and processes. In electronics, if the manufacturer handles services like assembly, testing, procurement, and logistics, it is often called EMS. But more important than the name is where the responsibility for design and production is divided. Sometimes the manufacturer does not just produce, they also design the product. The brand makes changes to the ready design and sells it under its own name. This model is called ODM, and this is where outsourcing goes one step further. In pharma, this same story can be seen in the form of CDMO, where the partner helps from development to commercial production. Now the factory does not remain just hands, it can also become part of the technical brain. The private label model is found in FMCG, cosmetics, and small appliances. The manufacturer has a ready formulation or product, and the retailer adds their own name and packaging, but this simple-looking path is not risk-free either. Now let's look at how a deal begins. The brand first creates a demand forecast, target cost, and launch date, then sends an RFQ to potential manufacturers, but it is not necessary that the lowest quote wins. The brand checks the factory's capacity, financial health, certifications, past defects, labor practices, and suppliers. Because machines can look grand, but a weak process can ruin the entire story on launch day. After this, engineers work on design for manufacturing. They see whether a beautiful prototype can even be made consistently on a large scale, because laboratory success is no guarantee for the production line. Once the prototype passes, tooling, molds, jigs, testing fixtures, and line layout are prepared. Often the brand pays for these assets, so even though the factory belongs to someone else, the crucial tools can belong to the brand. Then the bill of materials, meaning BOM, is locked. Which chip, chemical, fabric, or packaging material will come from which approved supplier is decided, and even a small change can alter the results. Before mass production, a pilot run or trial batch is made. This is where risks like dimensions, color, strength, battery performance, shelf life, or contamination are caught, otherwise a small mistake can multiply across millions of units. Testing does not happen only on the final product. Incoming material, mid-production stages, and the finished batch checks are applied to all three. The question is not whether a defect will occur, but where it will be caught. When the line runs at full speed, the manufacturer tracks yield, scrap, downtime, and output. The brand monitors through audits, sample inspections, and dashboards because trust is necessary, but data is even more necessary. The brand's packaging is applied to the finished product, and the shipment goes to the warehouse, distributor, or directly to the customer. From the outside, a single box is visible, while inside, dozens of decisions from forecasting to freight are locked away. This is where the first major reason comes to light. Setting up a factory is not just about buying a building. Heavy capital gets tied up in land, machines, utilities, licenses, engineers, maintenance, and safety systems, whether the product sells or not. Factory expenses do not stop even when production stops. Depreciation, salary, electricity demand charges, and maintenance keep running. Therefore, the brand wants to limit financial risk by turning fixed costs into a manufacturing fee. A contract manufacturer handles orders from multiple customers within the same ecosystem. Their machines run longer, bulk procurement can be cheaper, and expertise is shared. This is where economies of scale are born. The second benefit is speed. Due to a ready facility, trained workforce, and approved processes, a new product can come to market quickly. When technology changes fast, a 6-month delay can eat up the entire opportunity. The third advantage is the learning curve. A factory that has made circuit boards, tablets, or bottles for years can identify defects quickly. The brand gets that practical knowledge which is easy to buy but slow to build. The brand can then invest its money in R&D, software, marketing, distribution, and customer service. This can be its core advantage, but focusing on the core absolutely does not mean taking your eyes off production. The model looks even more attractive during seasonal demand. Increase orders during festivals, decrease them during a slowdown. Theoretically, capacity remains flexible. But if the contract has a minimum quantity or committed capacity, this flexibility can suddenly become expensive. When entering another country or state, a local manufacturer understands the regulations, labor, and supplier ecosystem. This makes production close to the market possible, but a new challenge of coordination across different locations also arises. But not our own factory does not mean no investment. The brand may have to spend on tooling, advance payments, inventory, engineering, and quality teams. It's just that the form of investment changes. Large orders give the brand negotiation power. The manufacturer gets a predictable volume and the brand gets a better price. But if the demand forecast turns out wrong, that same volume can sleep in the warehouse as unsold inventory. However, the cheapest factory is not always the most profitable. When you add freight, customs, rework, returns, delays, and management time, a contract with a low unit price can turn out to be the most expensive overall. Now the dark side of the story begins: dependency. The day a brand sends its production knowledge outside, that very day it begins to depend on someone else's capacity, workers, and discipline. Suppose demand suddenly doubles. The manufacturer has other customers too. Who will get the line? If priority is not clear in the contract, shelves can remain empty in the middle of viral success. Sometimes the problem is not the factory, but a small component. The moment a chip, active ingredient, or special resin gets stuck, the entire line can stop. Even if the finished product is local, its veins remain connected to the global supply chain. The second blow comes from MOQ, meaning minimum order quantity. The manufacturer does not want to bear the setup cost for a small batch, so the brand orders more than needed, and the leftover inventory slowly keeps eating up cash. Quality failure does not always look dramatic. If machine calibration shifts a little, humidity changes, or a substitute material comes in, the batch can go out of specification. Stopping this subtle drift is the hardest part. And even if the fault originated in the factory, the customer targets the brand on social media. The logo has to face the recall, refund, and loss of trust. The invisible manufacturer rarely even makes it to the headlines. India's Consumer Protection Act 2019 puts even a person who gets their mark affixed on a product made by someone else under the definition of a manufacturer. Meaning, a brand's consumer-facing liability does not magically disappear through outsourcing. That is why a good contract does not just write down price and quantity. It clearly outlines specifications, delivery, defect limits, audit rights, confidentiality, warranty, recall costs, penalties, insurance, and termination rules. Otherwise, a dispute is already waiting. A golden sample and a locked BOM show both parties what the approved product looks like. Engineering change control ensures that materials or processes will not be changed without written approval. This small clause becomes a big shield. Traceability is the next safety armor. If there is a record of every batch, machine, operator, and supplier lot, then upon finding a defect, the entire market does not need to be emptied. The investigation can be limited to the affected units. Then comes the fear of intellectual property. Drawings, formulas, source files, and process knowledge reach the partner. If access is uncontrolled, that same speed can sometimes become a shortcut to copying, leakage, or reaching a competitor. Smart brands do not stop at an NDA. They implement role-based access for files, data security, employee controls, and the segregation of sensitive steps. Sometimes they get a critical component made by a different supplier, so the entire recipe is never left in one place. Tooling ownership is also no small matter. If the contract ends, who will own the mold, in what format will the data be received, and who will buy the inventory? If there is no exit plan, changing a supplier becomes like business surgery. Another blind spot is sub-suppliers. The factory approved by the brand might quietly pass a process to a third vendor. Therefore, stopping unauthorized subcontracting and building second-tier visibility is extremely important. If an unsafe workplace or environmental violation is hidden behind a low price, the damage is not just ethical, it is commercial. Audits, corrective actions, and worker feedback have now become essential parts of supply chain control. Apple states that its supplier network spans across more than 60 countries. It conducted 895 supplier facility assessments in 2025, of which more than 20% were unannounced. This scale shows that monitoring does not decrease after outsourcing, it increases. On the other hand, global manufacturing partner 𝐮𝐩𝐿 listed customer demand swings, limited suppliers, defects, transport, geopolitics, and IP risks in its March 2026 risk disclosure. Meaning, both sides buy vulnerability along with convenience. This is where the danger of supplier concentration unfolds. If a large share of revenue depends on one customer, or a brand's entire output relies on one factory, the negotiation can become unbalanced, and one shock can shake both. This is why dual sourcing looks attractive, but a second supplier is not free insurance. Tooling, validation, and quality consistency have to be repeated across two factories. Resilience increases, but complexity and cost increase along with it. The pandemic, freight disruptions, and geopolitical tensions forced companies to think about China Plus One, nearshoring, and regional supply chains. The goal is not to leave one country, but to reduce excessive dependence on any single route. Amidst this shift, mobile manufacturing grew rapidly in India. According to government data, mobile phone production reached approximately 5.45 lakh rupees crore, and exports reached around 2 lakh rupees crore in 2025, a massive expansion within a decade. But increasing assembly and making every component inside the country are not the same thing. Government information from April 2026 stated domestic value addition in electronics to be around 18 to 20%, meaning the next battlefield is components, materials, and capital equipment. This is why the outlay for the electronics components manufacturing scheme was increased from 22,919 crore rupees to 40,000 crore rupees in budget 2026. Electronics is not the only sector. Contract manufacturing is also found in pharmaceuticals, auto components, garments, footwear, food, cosmetics, and home appliances. The difference is not just in the machines, but in the regulations and the cost of failure. In pharma, a wrong batch is not just a return, it can become a question of patient safety. Therefore, licenses, GMP, process validation, laboratory records, and change control become far more serious than marketing speed. WHO guidance states that outsourced activities should be defined and controlled in a written agreement. The contract giver should assess the competence of the partner and be able to conduct audits. Meaning, the work can go outside, but the oversight cannot. In automobiles, a brand does not make thousands of parts itself. Tier suppliers provide systems and components, but a small inconsistency in braking or steering can become serious. Therefore, qualification and traceability here connect directly with life. In food and cosmetics, along with the formula, hygiene, allergen control, shelf life, and packaging integrity matter. In garments, shade, stitching, and labor compliance matter. Every sector puts contract manufacturing through a different test. If a startup wants to adopt this model, the first question should not be, how much will the factory make it for? First, they must honestly look at demand certainty, product risk, minimum order, certification, cash cycle, and internal quality capability. The right decision comes not by looking at the unit price, but by adding the total landed cost and the cost of failure. Freight, duties, rejected stock, warranty, delays, and reputation, these do not show up on the invoice, but they eat up profit first. Now return to that same smartphone box. The logo on the front belongs to the brand, the components are from multiple countries, the assembly is by a partner, and the quality is the result of numerous contracts and checks. Then who is the real manufacturer? Perhaps the answer is not the name of a single factory, but the company that can control the entire network from design to delivery. Today's big company does not make every screw. It handles the responsibility for every promise.
If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you. because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible. But in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.